The anniversary party was held at the country club where my parents had been members for 20 years. The ballroom was decorated in gold and white, with roses on every table and champagne flowing freely. 60 guests mingled and laughed, celebrating 3 decades of marriage. I stood near the bar in a simple black dress I'd worn to at least 5 other events, nursing a glass of water. Nobody had offered me champagne. Nobody had offered me much of anything, actually. "There's our successful daughter." Dad's voice boomed across the room as my sister Vanessa made her entrance. She wore a designer gown that probably cost more than my monthly rent, or at least what my parents thought was my monthly rent. Vanessa had always been the golden child. Stanford MBA, married to a corporate lawyer, 2 perfect children, a lifestyle that screamed success. She was everything my parents had dreamed of. I was everything they'd learned to tolerate. "Vanessa, darling." Mom rushed over to hug her. "You look absolutely stunning." "Thanks, Mom. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was awful." "You're here now, that's all that matters." Mom linked arms with her and paraded her around the room, introducing her to guests who hadn't seen her in a while. I stayed at the bar. My Aunt Carol found me there. "How are you doing, sweetheart?" "I'm fine, Aunt Carol. Still working at that. What was it again?" "I do financial consulting." "Oh, that's nice." Her tone suggested it was anything but nice. "Your parents must be so proud of Vanessa's new venture. Have you heard about it?" "Not yet." "Oh, you'll hear all about it soon, I'm sure." She patted my arm sympathetically and drifted away. Dinner was served at 7 p.m. I was seated at a table near the back with some of my parents' work colleagues I'd never met. Vanessa was at the head table with Mom and Dad, of course. Between the main course and dessert, Dad stood up with his champagne glass. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight to celebrate 30 years with my beautiful wife." He raised his glass toward Mom, who beamed. "We've been blessed with so much. A wonderful home, great friends, and 2 daughters." His eyes found Vanessa, then briefly flickered toward me before returning to Vanessa. "Our daughter Vanessa has always made us proud. Stanford graduate, successful career, beautiful family. And now she's embarking on a new adventure, starting her own consulting firm." Applause rippled through the room. Vanessa stood and gave a little wave. "Margaret and I believe in supporting our children's dreams," Dad continued. "So tonight we want to do something special." Mom stood up and pulled an envelope from her purse. She handed it to Vanessa with a flourish. "For your new business," Dad said proudly as Vanessa opened the envelope. Vanessa's eyes widened. She held up a check for everyone to see. "It's for $50,000. The room erupted in applause and congratulations. People stood up to hug her. Someone popped another bottle of champagne. I stayed in my seat, clapping politely. "What an incredible gift," someone at my table said. "Her parents must really believe in her." "Must be nice," another person muttered, not quietly enough. The celebration continued around Vanessa for several minutes. Photos were taken. More toasts were made. Through it all, they gave me nothing. Not even a card. Finally, Mom called out, "Lauren, come up here and congratulate your sister." I walked to the front of the room, very aware that 60 pairs of eyes were watching me. I hugged Vanessa and whispered, "Congratulations." "Thanks," she said, but there was something uncomfortable in her expression. Like she knew this was awkward but didn't know how to fix it. I smiled and congratulated her publicly, my voice steady. "I'm really happy for you, Vanessa. I hope the business is everything you dream it will be." Dad clapped me on the shoulder. "That's very gracious of you, Lauren." Gracious. As if I should be grateful for the opportunity to celebrate while being publicly overlooked. I was walking back to my table when the ballroom doors opened. A man in a suit walked in, looking slightly uncomfortable. I recognized him immediately, Gregory Walsh, the manager of First National Bank where my parents had their accounts. The same bank where I'd set up the payment systems 3 years ago. My stomach dropped. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not tonight. Not like this. Gregory scanned the room until his eyes found my parents. He walked directly toward them. "Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, I apologize for interrupting your celebration." His voice carried across the now quiet room. "But I need to speak with you about an urgent matter regarding your accounts." Dad's smile faltered. "Can't this wait until Monday?" "Unfortunately, no. There's an issue with your accounts." Gregory pulled out a tablet. I've been trying to reach you both all day but your phones were off. We turned them off for the party, Mom said nervously. What kind of issue? Gregory's eyes found mine across the room. He glanced at me and I saw the apology in his expression. He tried to warn me this was coming but I'd been unreachable too. It appears your daughter has been covering your mortgage, business loans and credit card debt for 3 years, totaling $890,000. The room went completely silent. Dad's face drained of color. What are you talking about? Your mortgage payments, your business loan payments, your credit card payments. They've all been coming from an account controlled by Lauren Anderson through an LLC called Redwood Financial Services. Every eye in the room turned to me. That's impossible, Mom whispered. Lauren doesn't have that kind of money. Gregory looked uncomfortable but continued. According to our records, Ms. Anderson established a trust 3 years ago specifically to cover your expenses. She's been making monthly payments of approximately $24,000, plus larger payments for annual property taxes and business expenses. Why are you telling us this now? Dad demanded. Because Ms. Anderson submitted paperwork this afternoon to terminate all automated payments, effective immediately. Given the substantial amounts involved, I felt you should be notified in person rather than discovering it when payments fail to process next week. My sister went pale. She understood immediately what this meant. I hadn't moved from my position near my table. Every person in that room was staring at me now, trying to reconcile the woman in the discount dress with someone who'd quietly paid nearly $1 million to keep her parents afloat. Lauren. Mom's voice cracked. Is this true? I took a deep breath and walked back to the front of the room. Yes. But, how? You work in financial consulting. You live in that small apartment. I own that small apartment, and the building it's in, and 12 other properties across 3 states. Financial consulting is what I tell people at parties because real estate investor makes people ask too many questions. Dad found his voice. You've been paying our mortgage for 3 years and never told us? You never asked where the money was coming from. 3 years ago you were about to lose the house. You came to me in a panic, said the bank was going to foreclose. I offered to help and you assumed I meant I'd help you find a loan or negotiate with the bank. But we've been making payments, Mom started. You've been making payments to my account. I set up a system where you'd transfer money monthly and I'd cover the rest. You thought you were paying the full mortgage. You were actually paying about 30% of your total monthly expenses. Why would you do that? Vanessa asked quietly. Because 3 years ago I loved you all enough to not want to see you lose everything. I thought maybe if I helped quietly without making a big deal about it we could all just move forward. But you're stopping the payments now, Gregory said, checking his tablet. As of tomorrow morning. Yes. I looked at my parents. The next morning I stopped all payments. Why? Mom's voice was barely a whisper. I gestured to the check still clutched in Vanessa's hand. Because tonight you gave my sister $50,000 for a business idea, while I've been keeping you afloat for 3 years and you never acknowledged it. You never thanked me. You never even asked if I was okay financially. We didn't know, Dad started. You didn't want to know. It was easier to think I was barely scraping by, easier to focus all your pride and attention on Vanessa while I was just there. The daughter you tolerated. The room was so quiet I could hear the ice melting in people's drinks. Here's what's about to happen, I continued, my voice calm and measured. Your mortgage payment is due in 8 days. It's $8,400. Your business loan payment is due in 12 days. That's $6,200. Your credit card minimums across 4 cards total about $3,800 monthly, and those are due at various points throughout the month. Dad's face was ashen. We can't afford. I know you can't. That's why I've been paying it. But I'm done now. Lauren, please, Mom begged. We can talk about this. We can figure something out. We can't figure it out, Mom. Because figuring it out would require you to acknowledge that I'm not the failure you've treated me as for the past decade. Vanessa stepped forward. Lauren, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I know you didn't. But you never questioned it either. You never wondered how Mom and Dad were suddenly fine after nearly losing everything. You just accepted it and moved on. The $50,000. Vanessa said slowly, looking at the check in her hand. They can't actually afford this, can they? They can't afford groceries right now, I said bluntly. Their savings account has $3,200 in it. Dad's business is barely breaking even. They're living on credit and the money I've been secretly funneling into their accounts. Dad sat down heavily. How did you know all this? Because I'm good at what I do. When you asked me for help 3 years ago, I didn't just look at your mortgage. I looked at everything. Your business books, your spending patterns, your debt-to-income ratio. You were drowning and you didn't even realize it. So you just took over? Mom asked. I kept you from going under. There's a difference. I pulled out my phone and opened a document. I have spreadsheets. Every payment I've made, every bill I've covered, every crisis I've quietly solved. $890,000 over 3 years. And tonight, you gave Vanessa $50,000 that came from money I freed up by covering your other expenses. Vanessa looked at the check like it was radioactive. I can't accept this. That's between you and them, I said. But you should know that if they write that check, their account will bounce. I was covering the shortfall. Without my payments, there's nothing there. Gregory cleared his throat. Ms. Anderson is correct. If that check is deposited, it will not clear. The humiliation on my parents' faces was almost painful to watch. Almost. What do you want from us? Dad finally asked. I don't want anything anymore. That's the point. I spent 3 years wanting acknowledgement, wanting respect, wanting to be seen as more than the disappointing daughter. Tonight made it clear that's never going to happen. That's not true, Mom protested. We love you. You love the idea of me. The version of me that doesn't challenge you, that doesn't require attention or praise, that just exists quietly in the background while you focus on Vanessa. I looked around the room at all the shocked faces. I'm sorry your anniversary party turned into this. That wasn't my intention. But I'm not sorry for stopping the payments. I'm done subsidizing a family that doesn't value me. I picked up my purse and walked toward the exit. Lauren, wait. Vanessa caught up with me in the hallway. Please don't go like this. Like what? Honestly, I've been quiet and accommodating for too long. I didn't know, she said again, tears in her eyes. I swear I had no idea you were helping them. I would have said something. Would you? Or would it have been easier to just accept it and feel good about being the successful daughter? She flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? You've spent our entire lives being the golden child, Vanessa. The one who did everything right, who made them proud. Do you know what that was like for me? Always being compared, always falling short. I never asked to be compared. You didn't have to. You just had to be yourself, and that was always enough. I had to become a multimillionaire before anyone even noticed I existed, and even then they didn't notice. I had to spell it out in front of 60 people. Vanessa was crying openly now. What can I do? Nothing. This isn't your burden to carry. It's theirs. I softened my voice slightly. I don't hate you, Vanessa. I'm just tired of being invisible. I left her in the hallway and walked out to my car. A nice sedan, not flashy, but certainly not the beaten-up compact my parents thought I drove. The next morning, I woke up to 47 missed calls and over 100 text messages. Mom, Dad, Vanessa, my Aunt Carol, various family friends. Everyone wanted to talk, to explain, to apologize, to beg. I ignored them all and went to the gym. Then I had brunch with my financial advisor, discussing a new property acquisition in Portland. At 2 p.m. Gregory called. Lauren, your parents came to the bank this morning. They're panicking. I imagine they are. They want to know if you'll reconsider. No. They're asking about loan options. You and I both know they won't qualify for the loans they need. Their debt-to-income ratio is terrible, and without my payments, they have no way to demonstrate consistent payment history. I know. I told them as much. Your father started crying. That hit harder than I expected, but I pushed the feeling down. They created this situation, Gregory. Not me. I know. I'm not calling to change your mind. I just thought you should know what's happening. Thank you. After I hung up, I sat on my balcony and looked out at the city. My apartment, the one my parents thought was tiny, had a view worth 6 figures alone. I'd bought it 5 years ago, one of my first major purchases. I thought about all the ways I'd hidden my success, all the times I'd let them believe I was struggling. I told myself I was being humble, being smart, not flaunting wealth. But really, I'd been protecting them from the truth. that I'd succeeded far beyond their expectations while they were quietly failing. A week later, Vanessa showed up at my apartment. I almost didn't let her in, but curiosity won. "I didn't cash the check," she said immediately. "I ripped it up." "That was your choice." "It was the only choice. That money was never theirs to give. It was yours." I made us coffee and we sat in my living room in uncomfortable silence. "I talked to Mom and Dad," Vanessa finally said. "Really talked. They admitted they've been living beyond their means for years, trying to maintain an image they can't afford." "I know. They're going to downsize. Sell the house, sell Dad's boat, cut back on the country club membership. Dad's looking into consulting work to supplement his business income." "Good. They want to apologize to you. Properly." "I'm not ready for that yet." Vanessa nodded. "I understand. But I want to apologize. For not seeing you, for not questioning why I always got the attention while you got ignored. For accepting the golden child role without thinking about what it was doing to you." I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw genuine remorse. "I forgive you," I said quietly. "But things can't go back to how they were. I don't want them to. I want to actually know you. The real you, not the version we all pretended existed." We talked for 3 hours. About our childhoods, about the pressures we'd both felt, about the different ways those pressures had shaped us. It wasn't a complete reconciliation, but it was a start. 6 months later, my parents invited me to dinner. Just the 3 of us at a modest restaurant near their new, smaller house. "We're sorry," Dad said before we'd even ordered. "For everything. For not seeing your success, for not appreciating your help, for treating you like you were less than Vanessa. For taking you for granted," Mom added, her eyes red. "For being so focused on appearances that we forgot to actually see our daughter." I listened to their apologies, to their explanations of therapy and financial counseling, of learning to live within their means. "I forgive you," I finally said. "But I'm not going back to being your safety net." "We wouldn't ask that," Dad said quickly. "We're figuring it out on our own. It's hard, but it's honest." We had dinner. We talked about my work, really talked about it for the first time ever. They asked questions. They listened. It wasn't perfect. 30 years of dysfunction doesn't heal in one dinner. But it was honest. And that was more than we'd ever had before. Because here's what that anniversary party taught me. You can't make people value you by being indispensable. You can only make yourself dispensable and see who stays. The people who stay when you stop carrying them. Those are your real family. Everyone else is just people you're related to. And that distinction matters more than any amount of money ever could.